Good evening, welcome to the Golden News of Hollywood. And to welcome you, I have this lovely melody, Wonderful One, composed by Paul Whiteman and Ferdy Grofi, based on a theme composed by director Marshall Nealon. Wonderful One. It's featured in Julia Misbehaves. It gives some scenes in the film a wonderfully romantic feeling. I think you'll like it, and I think you'll like the picture, actually. It's based on a book called The Nutmeg Tree by Marjorie Sharp. She also wrote Clooney Brown and Britannia Muse. Julia Packett, the central character, is very interesting. She says things as they come from her mind, sometimes when she should have censored them a little bit, and gets herself into a spot of bother here and there. Don't expect this film to be funny, hysterically funny all the way through. Some of it's very funny, some of it's charmingly romantic, and there are a few moments that are rather tender and perhaps even a little hurtful. Now, when this film was made in '48, Greer Garson needed a hit movie because she'd had two that hadn't done very well at the box office, so MGM put her back together again for the 5th time with Walter Pidgeon, and they made Julia Misbehaves. Here's Greer as she appears first in Julia Misbehaves. Greer Garson having a bubble bath with creditors outside her bathroom door. She's in quite a spot of bother, as she is throughout the whole picture, and I think you'll like her. And here she is with Walter Pidgeon. Their 5th time together, and this scene is particularly funny. I couldn't begin to tell you what she's saying and doing at this point in the picture, but it's a delightful moment. Now, included in the cast are Peter Lawford and Elizabeth Taylor. Here's a shot of Greer Garson with both of them. Now, Elizabeth Taylor was only 16 when the film was made, could pass for 21, and blushed every time Peter Lawford came near her during the production. Everybody knew she had a crush on him. Now, a very interesting scene in Julia Misbehaves is the first one together of Julia the mother with Susan the daughter, played by Elizabeth Taylor. A scene where they're trying to get to know each other, and Julia realises something quite extraordinary. Watch the scene carefully, and there's this one line she says that's so potent, and you realise that their relationship has to start from scratch, even though there's the daughter, 21, and, you know, there you are. The line is, there isn't anything for us to remember together. It's a sad moment, but from then on, things start to happen. Now, also in the cast of Julia Misbehaves, we have Cesar Romero. He's very funny. He plays a Cockney acrobat, and his mother in the film is played by Mary Boland, that wonderful actress who played the part of Mrs. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. This is a very funny moment, too, from Julia Misbehaves. And one final shot that I'd like to show you. In this scene, Walter Pidgeon actually sings Wonderful One. Some of you may know that when he started off on the stage and screen, he was a musical comedy star. He sings Wonderful One. Now I have a question for you. In the course of the film, Walter Pidgeon and Greer Garson dance to Wonderful One. My question to you, what is she wearing when they dance together to Wonderful One? Now, if you'd like to enter our little competition, which I told you about last week, we have, thanks to Wendy Calder of Roadshow Home Video, 2 copies of the video release of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, autographed by Steve Martin, plus 5 unsigned copies. We want to give those 7 copies away. If you'd like to be in the running for one of those copies, you've got to answer my question. I'll repeat it for you. What is Greer Garson wearing when she dances with Walter Pidgeon to the melody of Wonderful One? Now, at the end of Julia Misbehaves, I'll let you know the address to which you send your entries. And now, I hope you'll enjoy the romance, the comedy, the music, and the drama of Julia Misbehaves. Isn't that a lovely melody? Wonderful One. Absolutely beautiful. And you know, it was also featured in the Mickey Rooney Judy Garland film Strike Up the Band, which featured Paul Whiteman and his orchestra. They played that in one scene. I think Mickey and Judy might have been dancing as they were playing it. I can't remember exactly, but it's just such a beautiful melody and seems so right for Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon in Julia Misbehaves. Incidentally, do you remember the scenes where Walter Pidgeon was backstage at the theatre? Well, here's someone rather interesting. When he came backstage at that French music hall, there was an old man, the stage doorman, sitting just next to the door, and he gave directions to Walter Pidgeon. That old man who played the stage doorman was André Charlot. Many years before, in London, André Charlot was one of the foremost entrepreneurs and producers, and very instrumental in fostering the career of Gertrude Lawrence. Oh, the ironies of people who work in show business. I hope you're enjoying our film tonight. I just love Greer Garson. I hope you do as well. We shall return to Julia Misbehaves in a few moments. I hope you've enjoyed Julia Misbehaves. I think it's a charming movie. Mind you, I'm prone to like Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon, and I do wish we had their other movies. Never mind, at least we have Julia Misbehaves. So, quite serious. Wonderful scene between her and Elizabeth Taylor, the first one that they had together in the film. And I love the use of Wonderful One. What a beautiful melody, and it's perfectly romantic. Well, we haven't any more Greer Garson, Walter Pidgeon films, but we do have a couple of interesting Greer Garson films that I think you'll find quite provocative, actually. One of them is Adventure, in which she co-stars with Clark Gable. It's got a bad reputation, but I think you'll find it very enjoyable, based on a most unusual novel called The Anointed by Clyde Bryan Davies. The other one is When Ladies Meet, in which Greer co-stars with Joan Crawford, Robert Taylor and Herbert Marshall. That's a real gem for those who love movies, believe me. Well, it's almost time to go, but I do have something else to do, to tell you about next Saturday night, and also to give you the address for our competition. I gave you the question about Julia Misbehaves, and here's where you must send your entry, writing the answer on the back of an envelope. Do not send it to me here, care of the channel you are now watching. Send it to this address: Bill Collins' Dirty Rotten Scoundrels Competition, Post Office Box 2581, Sydney 2001. I'll say that one more time. Bill Collins' Dirty Rotten Scoundrels Competition, Post Office Box 2581, Sydney 2001. Hope you've got that. That's the address that you must write to with the answer to get you into the competition for one of the 2 special copies of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, autographed by Steve Martin, or one of the 5 that haven't been autographed at all. Well, almost time to go. But may I say that next Saturday night, we are going to begin at our old time and obviously much loved time of 8:30. Remember that, 8:30 next Saturday night, for 2 of the most famous boats ever in the movies. The first one, the African Queen. I'm so thrilled that we've now got the African Queen. We have a beautiful colour print, and I'll present that for you next Saturday night at 8:30 on the Golden Years of Hollywood. And by the way, apropos of the African Queen, something rather interesting, I realised something about Humphrey Bogart that I never realised before, that sets him apart from almost all of the major male stars today. What is this special thing? You'll find out next Saturday night at 8:30. Oh, and by the way, the other famous boat, the Showboat, Universal's super version of Edna Ferber's novel and the musical play by Rodgers and Hammerstein, with Irene Dunne, Alan Jones, Charles Winninger, Paul Robeson, who's magnificent, and Helen Morgan recreating her original Broadway role of Julie Laverne. What a program for next Saturday night to celebrate our return to 8:30. I'll look forward to your company. Good night.
The Golden Years of Hollywood was proudly brought to you by Panasonic, even more than you expected.